5090 servers literally cost more than $50,000 to build right now. Not even 3 months ago, I sold all five of my 5090 servers that I had for $30,000 to $34,000 a piece. If you're interested, I made a video at the time when I built them, describing the components, and I think I even listed prices that we were getting then. And I'm just shocked that in 2 or 3 months, the price is close to doubled where it was before. So here's the spec of the server that I built 6 months ago. And I ended up building five of those with the idea that I'd rent them out on, different platforms like Vast and RunPod. And then ultimately, the idea was to land them on some kind of committed contract with some customers. I ended up getting lucky, and fairly early on, I think three of them ended up on contract. And then I sort of played around with the other two, doing some crypto stuff and renting them on, I think I had them on Vast for a little while. But what I want to do today is talk about the build, that we had there, because it was obviously like a super maxed out spec. And I'll go through all of the different costs that I'm seeing now. And I'll show you why it would cost, $50,000 for me to build the exact same server that I was able to build for 27,000, at the end of last year. Starting with the 5090s, a couple weeks ago, I sold the last one that I had and got, I think, $34.50 for it in cash. And that's a increase from, initially when I bought the GPU, I think I only paid $2,200 for it off of Reddit. So that's obviously driving a huge amount of the increase in cost. To get eight of those, you're looking at $27,600 if you were to pay $34.50 for all eight of them, which is crazy because I think the entire server cost me that much when I initially built it. Next up, there's the motherboard. So this is a very specialized motherboard. It's MCIO-based board where you're using MCIO cables instead of PCIe slots on the motherboard to fan out the PCIe connectivity to your 5090s, to your NVMe drives. I put NICs in mine because I wanted to operate at 10 gig because we had 10 gig internet in the facility. So this board, it's I think one of the easiest ways to get into PCIe Gen 5 at 8 GPU scale. I think there's other boards out there where you could get 2 GPUs on it maybe, or something with less MCIO ports where you can maybe do a 4 GPU setup. But if you want to do an 8 GPU setup at PCIe Gen 5, this is the board for you. Next, CPUs. Went with two 96 core CPUs. I think back then I paid $2,000 a piece for them, and looking now, I think they're still about $2,000 a piece. The memory. So DDR5 is like one of the most appreciated assets, I think, right now. I bought my DIMMs back then for $150 a piece. Look today, it looks like it would cost $600 per DIMM for the same 32 gig, 4800 hertz or megahertz DIMMs, which is actually crazy. So you're looking at like all in, like $14,000 just for the memory. That's if you want to do all 768 gig. You can get away with 384 gig in a build like this, but the trade-off there is that those CPUs they're 12 channel, and if you only have 12 DIMMs between the two of them, then they're going to operate at half the memory bandwidth, which isn't a really big deal. Like, it sounds like it could be a lot, but a lot of applications don't really saturate memory bandwidth. Next up is the drives. So NVMe drives, we're doing 3.84 terabyte PCIe Gen 4, like Samsung drives. And those I was paying like $300 for those back in the day. And now those are $600 each. So you probably want two of those in a server like this, just so you've got like, a decent amount of local scratch space to store models. And, if you're doing any training, like you need a bit of space to hold your data set. Next, the chassis. So actually get a lot of people asking me who manufactures these, like where do we get them? There's a whole bunch of Chinese manufacturers that do various variations of this, and we used one called One Chassis. Ran almost 100 of their chassis. Never really had issues. I found though, like in ordering them, there was always something that like needed to be clarified before we shipped it across the ocean. And then once you're standing there holding all the sheet metal, it's like really hard to retroactively make changes to the chassis, obviously. So I would just caution you, if you're going to buy one of these custom chassis, to ensure that like everything is documented and the spec matches exactly what you're expecting. So that is the chassis that we put these in, and that chassis came with a 5 CRPS PDB with power cables that actually they were like the PCIe Gen 4, maybe Gen 5 power cables, so they fit right into the 5090s, which is really handy. Um, and then obviously there was power connectors for that Genoa motherboard, which had some strange specific power type. So yeah, the chassis, I think that's something that a lot of people are curious about. I think there's lots of options. My advice is just like go into that, cautiously. The CRPS power supplies. So 1600-watt CRPS power supplies aren't very expensive used. Brand new, like you're looking at like $200 or $300 each. But the used ones are fine. And the benefit of this over like the ATX power supplies is that you obviously have 5 of them. So like if one breaks, it doesn't take the whole system down. You just pop it out and replace it. So those, I think you can get them for like, I don't know, I want to say like $50 to $100. The range is pretty big, right? Because like they go in a lot of different servers. The next piece here, so the risers. Okay, so PCIe Gen 5 risers are, there's good ones and there's bad ones. So you want to make sure that the PCIe Gen 5 risers that you buy are actually capable of running a GPU at PCIe Gen 5. When I say capable, I mean there are PCIe Gen 5 like MCIO risers that throw way too many errors to actually operate at PCIe Gen 5. And if you try to run a GPU on something like that, it will actually just crash. So I've had really good experience with C-Pain risers. He's got a design where basically the MCIO cable connects at like the bottom of the riser, which puts it closer to the slot. So there's like less PCB trace, which is where most of the loss is. The ones that we used the most, they actually were just soldered. So the MCIO cable would come off of the PCIe riser, and it wasn't like it was pluggable end on the motherboard side. It was just soldered on the other side. And those we had really, really good stability with. So the PCIe Gen 5 risers, about $50 each. It depends if you get them with cables or without cables. If you buy the cables separately, those typically run you $25 a cable. I'd go for like half-meter cables. That typically fits most things, and they're not too long that like the loss is really high. So all in for like the chassis, risers, power supply stuff, like that's only like $3,000 out of the broader cost. But the all up, like if you just add all this together, I was shocked when I saw that it was $51,650 just to build the same thing that was $27,000 to build a couple months ago. So, anyways, this was a quick video. I saw some people interested in costs of things. So I hope this sort of scratched everybody's itch for that.